So thanks for joining us today, Ziggy. How's the tour been going?
Absolutely flat chat. It's been very, very good so far. We are at show number 36 of 37, according to the numbers I've been told by my team. We lose track a little bit, but we are, 2 more shows to go, and we've done 35 so far.
Oh, it's so exciting.
Yeah.
And so you have a little break before you head off to Europe. What's your plan? What are you going to do during that break?
I go back to studio a day after tour ends, so I'm going to go back in the studio because I just can't help myself. As for time between shows, there's 4 weeks between this last gig and the start of the European tour.
Yeah.
So in that time, I have a couple of various commitments that I have to do between. I run a label with my family mafia team, and we amongst many other things. But I'm going to try and just down tools a bit and put the brakes on because it's going to be a big year. So just go try and get still and not have a plan.
Yeah.
So that's I'm trying to figure out what plan is going to fit into that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It'd be nice to have a little break, I suppose. Like you said, you just saw like 35 shows back to back, so it'd be nice to have a little break, maybe get some surfing in, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I was discussing it with Sam, who's my videographer on tour, and I think the charm of your days that feel lovely are when you don't have a plan, because on tour, even on your off days, there's usually some schedule, and so it's really lovely to take a walk to the beach or go surfing and not have to be somewhere at this time, because even when it's looming or even when it's 7 hours away, you still have that commitment and you're still doing the maths on how long you can be somewhere. So I look forward to getting back into the ocean, surfing quite a bit. Luckily had a little bit of surfing on this tour, being a regional Australian tour. Yeah. But I definitely look forward to spending as much time in the salt as possible before heading to Europe.
Oh, it sounds great. Speaking of being in the ocean, I'd love to talk to you about Laps Around the Sun. Yeah. So it's such an incredible song. It's so eye-opening, I think, to what people are doing to the waters, doing to the environment. Do you think that people have really taken the message on board?
I think it's been really timely for what people are concerned about. I think that song I wrote in this almost there was a little bit of hopelessness. I was like, what's my place in this, and what can you do with this magnitude of what's happening? Yeah. And that's why I wrote that song. I kind of asking questions about what's happening, asking us questions of myself, most importantly. And so to see the song, I think what people are resonating with at the moment is when there is such a quantity of music. I think when you bring to the plate something that is genuine, it's going to sound really hippie, but like when you bring something that's genuine and you mean what you say, that's powerful. Did I expect it to be a standout song off the album that would be played on radio and be in the hottest 100? No, because I thought it was just an environmental song. I thought that was a personal, passionate song. But the fact people have resonated to it really tells of a time that people are eyes wide open and are, I think, at a point of learning and wanting to find out how they can take responsibility for their actions and what they can do to help the issues at hand. Yeah.
So would you say that you didn't necessarily intentionally write it as an educational song, but maybe more as a cathartic experience?
That's pretty spot on. I first came as a cathartic kind of working through how I felt. It's always important to me to leave subliminal messages. Like there's been across various works across the years, there's been this little note about, for example, there's things I've done I'm not proud of, like going to SeaWorld and being on my phone when I'm driving alone. These moments in songs where there'll just be one line that kind of will just touch on something. In 3 Degrees South, one of the piano songs off the album, it talks about fracking. It talks specifically about the fracking for CSG, for coal seam gas, and so forth. I don't want to have a song that points the finger and says, this is what's right, this is what's wrong. You should already know this. That's not the intention. It's about almost putting things in that people don't even, they're singing a nice melody with a good feeling, and then they might catch themselves going, is that what I think it says? And then they'll go, okay, microplastics, like, what's that about? And then they'll start to do their research. So I don't ever want it to be so obvious, but that song has just taken its own legs and run kind of thing, and I'm really chuffed that it has been a song that has resonated in that space, to be a song that is a little educational, but not to a point that it's unlistenable, just to be a song that connects with people. It's not, its purpose wasn't that, but the fact that it is, if it's raising ears and it's encouraging people to learn, that's the most I could ever hope for that song.
Yeah. It's more of an inspiring song. It's encouraging people to go out, do their own research, learn more for themselves.
It's just, I think because we, in efforts of looking for answers, I think we can get really hell-bent on just doing that, where I think that a lot of it comes down to asking questions of how we can do it better, because we don't have some of the answers. For example, with our transitions into renewable energy, that's not a flick of the switch, and we cannot be so unpragmatic, if that's a word, in the sense that we cannot just simply expect that.
Yeah.
And we need people, therefore, to ask questions, because we don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
But that's the beautiful thing about learning. That's the beautiful thing about, I think we got a lot of really great minds at this point, and freedom and access to technology and resources that we are in a really good spot. Yeah. I think we just have to keep taking those steps forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so I'm writing a series at the moment focusing on musicians, talking about using both their music and their public platform to raise awareness such as this. And then when you have things, like now the Great Australian Bight is in danger with this potential drilling, do you think that it is a responsibility of musicians, or do you think it's just an important thing that musicians can do through their music is to educate people?
That's a really good question. Is it a responsibility of musicians? I think no. Is it a responsibility right now as an Australian, if you are in the know, to try and look out for the future of Australia, not just environmentally but economically?
Yeah.
Yes. I do not advise or encourage the sort of rigidness that you should, as a musician, talk about this. I think that each musician or each public person could take the opportunity with their platform to perhaps, maybe it's animal welfare, maybe it's humanitarian rights, maybe it's working conditions or environmental stuff, like so on. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I just think that whatever you're passionate about, you should share. And so for me, that definitely has touched on a lot of environmental stuff, what I'm particularly passionate about. And with these issues like the Great Australian Bight, as you said, you, in and completely unsolicited, almost unrighteously so, you're in a position where you're up on stage and people listen to you. Like, that is the hardest thing about sharing information. That's the thing about sharing what's going on. And so I certainly feel like, well, I'm passionate about it. I'm learning about it. I'm not going to say I know everything, but I at least want to ask people to have their ears perked up and learn about it, because we cannot, particularly with this Great Australian Bight issue, it is of too much danger, like I said, environmentally and economically to Australia, to be ignored. It's it's got to be a drawn, we need to draw a line in the sand and say that this should be the last drilling application for the Great Australian Bight, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's quite shocking, I think. We are constantly fighting off one person that's trying to damage our beautiful Australian environment, only to have another one come in and try and do the exact same thing.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got these huge expanses that are threatened. Like, look at what's been going on with the Great Barrier Reef for years. I think what the urgency of the Great Australian Bight comes down to this. I don't see a way that an oil spill wouldn't happen. If you are familiar with that coastline at all, if you can fathom the sort of coastline, which as an Australian you can, very much so, but I've driven across the Nullarbor once, twice and 3 times, and it is simply not within our control if there's an oil spill or not, because those seas, like those storms, that part of the coastline, particularly that side of Australian weather systems, is as wild as it gets anywhere in the world. And so forth. I think, aside from it being a marine park, aside from it being 85% of the species found there are only found in the Great Australian Bight, literally with an oil spill there, the backup for the oil spill to help block a leak, 15 days away in Singapore. In terms of at 15 days at best, if there's no storms, that's when we get help. In that 15 days, we have currents that would cross almost up to 4 states of damage, depending on the weather systems at the time. 4 states of coastline will be affected by an oil spill, and we can't actually clean it up even if we wanted to. That's the whole point about that side of the coast, is that it is so rugged that's why it's so bloody uninhabited, because you just can't, there's some parts that you cannot access.
Yeah.
And so how on earth do we even fix a problem if we can't access it? You know, it's I just think it's not one of those low risk situations. It's extremely high risk, and the return for Australia is zilch.
Minuscule.
Yeah, minuscule.
Yeah, and even then the returns, there's other ways, you know, if people are saying it'll create jobs or something like that, there's other avenues to do that. We don't need to be ruining our environment to have that.
Well, look, I had a really good discussion with my dad, and he basically, and he's a really great at debating these sort of things, and he's very pro, may I add, he's pro there not being drilling in the Great Australian Bight.
Yeah.
But he said, what are you going to do about your car? I thought that was a really great question. He goes, so you're driving your car? And I do. Is it driving a car, flying airplanes? What are you going to do? And I had to really sit and think for a while. And that's where I came to this thought that, can we agree that it's a transition period of energy? Can we agree that like there needs to be transition? We can't keep doing it the old way. We don't have the resources to do it the old way. So there needs to be a transition. I think if our politicians and various federal environmental and federal resource ministers could perhaps, one particular federal resource politician, if they could see that we need to be in this transitional mode. As it is, we can't keep doing things the old way because we just don't have enough of these non-renewable resources. We just don't. So we need to curb our demand as it is. There needs to be a curb in demand. There is options, for example, like with cars, where we have seen in varying different countries a huge uprising, particularly in Scandinavia, with electric vehicles, for example, right? We've barely touched our wind and solar industry in Australia. There's a huge amount of jobs and there's a huge amount of jobs, less environmental damage, not zilch, but there's less environmental damage, and also huge economic opportunity. What we risk in the meantime, I think the general population of Australia really needs to understand, is what we risk is over $110 billion per annum in tourism and fisheries. And you got to talk money. Like you have to talk.
To money.
Well, it's a part of our like existence in this particular modern society, and I've got no qualms in that we need to. And in this particular case, it's powerful because, for example, the Great Ocean Road in Victoria is now, like, I think the top tourist destination, even over the Great Barrier Reef and so forth. When we talk about risking the Great Australian Bight environmentally, we also talk about all the communities, all the jobs in fisheries and tourism, not just in the Great Australian Bight, but carrying all around to Port Macquarie. If there was a big enough storm, their spill map showed that. It wasn't not made up, it's their spill map, which you'd hope would be erring in their favour, may I add.
Yeah.
You like to think, right? It would risk up to 4 states of jobs, and of not just environmental. We need to be pragmatic. We need to also talk about the very realistic risk at hand of a huge part of the Australian economy.
Yeah.
And what's so beautiful about tourism is that that's one of the few industries where money circulates back into the Australian economy, where it employs local people to be living in these different areas. So we need to stand up for that, I think, as well. I think that's, and I do believe, New Zealand passed their law, they're not drilling in their waters anymore, and so that's a neighbouring country. Norway, where this particular company is from, in their areas that are like that, they've stopped drilling. And so there's all these different examples of successful laws being passed and it moving that direction. I think Australia, we just need to, as a population, and to put pressure politically on our politicians, we need to ask them to follow suit. Yeah,
absolutely. Circling back to Laps Around the Sun, there's a verse in there you say, "You just laugh and smile, shake your head and remind me that all good things can come true." That verse, where does that come from? It sounds like you're having a conversation. Is that a self-reflective piece, or is that conversations you have had, or is it even that it almost sounds in a way like you're speaking with the environment, and it's sort of acknowledging that it's not too late to turn things around?
That's what's so great about interpretation, is that's not the way I'd written it for that reason, but that's really cool, and really cool thing. That for me is when that's that reassurance, whether that's in like a friend or in a good event that happens, or in seeing that what you're going through right now makes a little bit of sense if you just give it time. So that for me is almost thinking about, personally, particularly in that one moment of the song, is about imagining someone is sitting there, you know, your life partner's sitting somewhere, doesn't know you right now, but they're sitting there and they might be going through the same thing. If you can both just laugh and smile and realise that it's just numbering afternoons until you're going to meet each other, so to speak, that you kind of, you know, keep your head up, so to speak. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, awesome. And then so it did also place number 42 in the Hottest 100. What was that like? You know, you beat huge artists like Drake as well, and it's a song about the environment. Were you expecting that?
No. It was a nerve-wracking day, to say the least. And so I am, and still am, really chuffed that Triple J really got behind that song. I wasn't expecting it. And so, but they've really been they've told my story pretty clearly. They haven't cut too much out of it, and they have wanted to bring along some of those environmental values. But the people of Australia, for them to put in their votes and say that song mattered to them enough to be in, you know, top 50 of the Hottest 100 was. It was a really big day. It felt like the end of the year for us. It felt like, okay, now that felt like yeah, exactly. That's what felt like the end of the year for us. So it was a really sweet moment.
Yeah, definitely. And knowing that you had 2 songs in the top 100, you also had Love Me Now come in at, it was number 37, I believe.
Yeah.
So what was that like, you know, your debut year being on the Hottest 100, to have 2 songs placed in the top 50, it's pretty astounding.
I think why it matters is because it truly is like, there's so many voters and it is across a huge expanse of music. And so, again, like I said before, the fact that people put that down, particularly Love Me Now, because it was released quite early in the year. And so for that to still be a song that people were jamming out to and mattered to them when they were putting in their votes, I mean, it's, look, countdowns when it comes down to people putting in their votes and saying that was one of their favourite songs of the year, that's huge. Like, that was really sweet. And that shows tonight, it definitely is a standout song, and it's a real sweet moment playing it.
I bet. Well, only 2 shows left to go, and you know, a little break for a European tour. It must feel pretty monumental. Yeah,
like we talked about before the camera was on, I think that particularly the last 2 shows, you just got to stay in the hot seat. Monday's far away at this point to me. It's just, I'm looking forward, and also these really important cities, like Brisbane's a really important place for me to play. You know, being, you know, a city quite close to where I started all this, between Sunshine Coast and Bight, really is that middle point. And so these shows, even if they're your last ones, they're really, really important. So I just look forward to kind of giving everything these next 2 nights. Here, last night in Brisbane, here tonight in Brisbane, then one last show, the finale in Byron Bay. And then wake up on Monday morning and look back at what the heck just happened. Inspiring and write a new album again. Yeah, that's it, and just get to work. Do have one more question. I'd love to know what happened to Trouble the Sea Kitten. Trouble the Norwegian sea kitten. He has, so we found this little kitten. I thought I was losing, well, I was obviously not mental, but I thought I was even more mental than I'd previously assumed. And we heard meowing at this kind of on this dock, and I was like, wow, I'm losing the plot today. And we walked back up there to kind of like the service area. I was sailing Norway at the time, and walk up there with my then partner, and she was like, I can hear a kitten meowing. And I was like, okay, that's ridiculous. And it had fallen down like a little hole in the harbour wall and was kind of stuck out to swim across, and obviously didn't love the idea of that. And so we ended up getting on a board and coaxing it out with a bit of food and grabbing it by the scruff, and he wasn't impressed at all. But then pretty much like within like that day, like just as long as you kind of tucked him away, he was with us, and he came sailing with us across almost 800 nautical miles of Norway. And then we found a family who hangs out, has like a little like house by the sea kind of thing, but also has a farm stay. And so basically he was going to have little kids who were looking after him, the parents who just, and he was straight away just loved them. And there was no way between the 2 of us at the time, me and my then partner who found said Little Trouble, we weren't going to be able to look after him. And so it was really important for us to find a good family. And so Trouble, the Norwegian sea kitten, right now is, I got a picture just the other day, he's grown up so much, and he was laying on a couch with a little kid asleep on him, and I'm sure he's chasing mice and living an absolutely lovely life. Having a really good time. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to Marx Music. Really looking forward to the show tonight. Caught your performance at Blues Fest last year. It was amazing, so really looking forward to seeing what's in store tonight. Thank you very much for having me, and thanks for talking about all these variously important issues today. Really grateful to have the chat. Thank you.